This is the RacingRant preview for Warwick Farm tomorrow, last day of May the 31st, and we're racing on a good track with the rail out 5 metres, so I'm forecasting that it's on pace and inside will be okay. Race 1 is a very interesting 1200 metre 2-year-old race and a largish field at this stage with 11 to go round. Good speed with the Waterhouse trained AC Tong D and Got to Go, who's underneath her. I had Irish Success not far away, who's having his first start at home. Dana Tun could go work forward from his wide draw with Blake Shin on board first up. I had Magic Search and Stage Pass midfield, and Manicure is the first starter from the blue colours, Beedman at the moment, that has shown good speed in her trials, and I expect her to be prominent. Now the market for this race reads $3.50 I Am Excited, $6 Asons from the blue colours, $7 is Manicure, $7.50 Iowa, first starter from the Chris Wally yard, $8 AC Tong D, and then we're out to $15 down the bottom Stage Pass, Magic Search and Irish Success, $16 Dunatun, $21 next best the resumer Momentum to Win, who's been gelded. Now this favourite needs some perspective, I guess. Karen McAvoy to ride, that's good. First start at home, that's good. Debuted in the feature 2-year-old race at Scone and probably came down the best section of the track. Look, certainly showed talent on that occasion. Her trials prior to that were fair. She doesn't look to have a lot of early speed, and I'd suggest that her form is a bit overvalued. It's not a proper Saturday race. It's a bodgy Scone race that has some credentials. I know that the winner from last week's 2-year-old race came out of that, but she found conditions to suit last week. I'm querying whether this horse gets into the right position. Manicure is the horse that caught my eye. The trials excited me, far more so than I Am Excited, and she seems to me to be a likely type. Iowa is a Waller debutante that screams that she's going to be competitive. I guess the price is there. And look, I wasn't particularly taken with the other blue colour debutante Asons. Her original trial was okay, her recent trials are okay, fair only. Other than that, the Scone 2-year-old race that Got to Go, Magic Search and Stage Pass come out of is the restricted sales race, which is rubbish. Some interest in Irish Success, who's having his first start at home, as I mentioned earlier, and Momentum to Win and Donatun resuming their second preparations and perhaps are not hopeless. But my focus here is on number 11, and I'm opposed to number 8. Race 2 is a 3-year-old Colston Geldings maiden over 1200, and the market starts with Launch Code, who's resuming in his second preparation at $2.25. $3.60 the other horse resuming in his second preparation off a longer spelled Tivoli Street. $4.20 Star of Monsoon. And then we're out to $14 down the bottom Western, $15 the other, well, a debutante there, Read All About It. And Tivoli Street should show good gate speed from gate 1. Western raced successfully up on the speed at Scone. Launch Code obviously gets into his stride quite easily, and I have Star of Monsoon tracking those 3. Wow, Launch Code, he's a key runner on tomorrow's program. He's been gelded, he just had the 2 starts. Perhaps a touch unlucky behind a good horse in Samantha on debut, and then he raced keenly outside the lead, chased a fast pace and retired on his second start. Loses the blinkers, been gelded, just one trial, 740 metres, which doesn't quite tick the boxes in that sense, but look, it looks an easy race for him to resume in. Tivoli Street showed perhaps his best talent at his 3rd run last preparation. Debut, he was common behind Glen All in a strong heat. Then he went to Newcastle in their good maiden on Cameron Day and went okay. And then finally he raced head-to-head with Chapel Co all the way around the 1300 metre course here and was quite solid. I'm wondering whether Star of Monsoon is quite dangerous here because he's up against two resumers, both with talent, but he's quite seasoned. He's finally got the scent of a finish. I know he was plain at Scone, but back to 1200 and with his seasoning and the right rider in Blake Shin, I'm suspecting he can be dangerous here. So Launch Code has this race to lose. And as I mentioned, Star of Monsoon just might find this suitable. Race 3, this is the fillies race over 1200 metres. $3.60 a pair, Palomino and Ragosa Rose, who's a debutante from the Gaybot yard. $4.60 Varese, who's a half-sister to Sebring, didn't flatter on debut at Broadmeadow, but gets the blinkers on here from the Gaybot yard as well. $5 Sharpness out to $14 Gracious Grey, $21 the other two, Bodie Blue and Our Girl Holly. Now Bodie Blue looks to take it up here, Blake Shin. She's up from 1,000 when resuming and she's at home. Palomino I have racing outside. Sharpness and Gracious Grey I have on speed. I guess Varese will lie up handier and it's difficult to get a line on how much pace Ragusa Rose has, but I guess she could perhaps be in front of at least half the field here. Interest in the debutante because there's very little city form here. Bodie Blue had a last start at the Provincials, Gracious Grey's resuming, Our Girl Holly resuming, Palomino's had 2 runs back both at the Provincials, Sharpness just had the 1 run away, and Varese failed at the Provincials' first start. So Ragosa Rose as a Metro trialer has some edge here in terms of her last appearance. Palomino, somewhat of a disappointment from the blue colours, and whilst she's fully fit here, third up, went back to the 1100 second up, I'm querying her determination. I do think that number 1 Bodie Blue is overpriced at $21. Her city run on debut was adequate, and then she ran into a horse that's going to run a clear favourite in the penultimate later on here. Second up with B Shin on board and perhaps taking it up, can run a very, very good race. And look, I guess that Varese can improve sharply. She was touted from her trials, very plain on debut at Broadmeadow, but did draw inside. You really need to draw wide at Broadmeadow on most occasions. Race 4, my feature, the 2200 metre race. $3.80 the favourite, the Scone winner, Lataro. $4.60 Sejenho. $6.50 Super B. $7 Mazaz. $8.50 Diamond Maid. $10 His Kalachi. $11 Napoleon. And I'm just trying to work out what price Sahara Strike is. I think it's $26. It's a low grade benchmark 67 obviously, and Sejenho just leads for fun here. Mazaz and His Kalachi I had in attendance. Diamond Maid could perhaps poke forward to sit second. Eden Road, Sahara Strike and Super B midfielder, Taro Napoleon back. Now this Lataro, who was 66s into 25s that's going to win the race off the back up from the Wagga Cup, is a horse that many players will oppose tomorrow. He's in a race that doesn't look suitably run. Obviously he's up sharply in weight, which is not necessarily the key to his demise here, but he just found a suitable race the other day. He's got half a good looking record, but he just needs things to suit, and I don't think that'll be the case tomorrow. Whereas Sejenho just makes his own luck. He ran into Pygmy last time, who's on fire. Prior to that he broke through at Gosford. He'd had, I think he's had 4 runs back now all up, and he gets a track that will favour him, and he just, as I say, he just makes all here. His Kalachi is an interesting runner who's now had 3 runs back, is on the quick back up, made a mid-race move off a hot speed last week. Kieran McAvoy to ride, and gate 1, he'll do something. His stablemate Mazaz, who was astern of Sejenho at Hawkesbury, has been somewhat plain in his 4 runs back, but Bowman on board will get everything thrown at him. And other than that, there's not much else to say. Super B was fair at Kembla. He's really set himself up as a provincial horse. His city runs are less than enthusiastic. Well, it's hard to get enthusiastic about them. So my suggestion is that Sejinho will take some running down, and that his Kalachi is primed, and that Lataro is a horse that is obviously coming off a big last start, but is somewhat unsuited here. That's the end of, well, that's my take on the first 4 races from Warwick Farm tomorrow. I'll be back in part 2 with a look at the last 3, which are considerably more difficult.